This is Jonathan Aguilar here for Pro Boxing Fans. We're here in Manchester today for the Taylor Leonardito press conference, as well as Anthony Croller's final bout. Adam, before we talk about that, we've got to talk about Saturday night, an incredible night of boxing. Just give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the great fights, wasn't it? Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis, everybody was split beforehand, and everybody seemed split at the end. I don't think I heard from people at ringside more draws that were scored, 6 and 6. I thought Josh nicked it. Other people behind me thought Regis had just got it. It was one of those great fights that had everything. It had high skills, wonderful tempo, electric pace, beautiful footwork, gladiatorial heart, ebbs and flows, huge commitment from both fighters, and the will to win extraordinary. And I think just over the course of the masterpiece that we saw over 12 rounds, I thought Josh just about deserved it. But that take nothing away from Regis. He started so well, he finished so well, and both come out of it impeccably. He spoke so well afterwards, Regis. But I've been an admirer of Josh Taylor's for a long time. I've wanted him on Sky for a long time. I've been nagging Eddie, I've been nagging the McGuigans, and finally we got him for the semi-finals of the Super Series. And I'm delighted for him. He's a great guy. He's got a great team around him. And as we found out from Team Prograis as well, and all the difficulties they had to deal with the loss of Patrick Day during their camp, and Lou DiBella having to sort of fly back and forth, and real hard times. And Regis was fantastic with us, with the press, over for 3 weeks, and he covered himself in glory too. So they both come out of it terrifically. It was a wonderful spectacle for the sport, and it was just a privilege to be there and to call the fight.
And as you mentioned, Regis Prograis came here a few weeks early, did all the promotional stuff. As a Sky Sports box office event, where does that rank for you this year?
I think it was one of the great fights that we've had on Sky. Full stop. I look back to maybe Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley with 90,000, and obviously the heavyweight division, and in a way the passing of the torch, but when AJ had to get up off the canvas, and that had everything in it as well, and that had the crowds too, and it was probably the perfect night. So I think it's difficult to surpass that. I think back to just seeing Paul speak there, I think back to Ricky Hatton when he fought Costas Hugh, those sort of nights, many great nights we've had on Sky Sports box office, but that's right up there in pure boxing terms. And we knew it was more of a tradie type of box office because the casual fans maybe didn't know so much about Regis or Josh. Well, hopefully they know a lot more now, and both of them were diamonds. They really were. And I think as well, with the pressure on boxing at the moment with what happened to Patrick, and it's been a difficult year in terms of injuries and fatalities. It's been terrible, and we've been rocked as a sport. But the period we've got now till Christmas is a phenomenal period, and to have the respect for the guys. It started in Newcastle really when it was called Bad Blood with Lewis Ritson and Robbie Davis Jr. and yet they were highly respectful, and I thought that was great. Same again last Saturday, and I think this Saturday we've got another great night ahead. Huge respect between everybody up there. Some great fights to look forward to. Boxing at its best.
I mean, just touching on that card again, Derek Chisora obviously appealed to the casual fans, beat David Price, probably quicker fashion than we thought. A lot of people afterwards, Derek himself saying he wants Alexander Usyk yet. Next, where do you see Derek's career going? He just keeps winning.
Yeah, David wants Alexander Usyk as well. I think they've obviously seen something in Usyk, the fact that he reigned at cruiserweight, but maybe that professional or the debut at heavyweight, they weren't worried about the power. I think that's probably what they're looking at. But he's brilliant, Usyk. So that's a tough ask for anyone who steps in the ring with him. I'd like to see Derek fight Joseph Parker. That's the fight we were going to have. I think still it's a fantastic fight, but let's see what happens with Ruiz and AJ in Saudi. Let's see what happens with that WBO title. I think that might be floating around possibly in the new year. So if Derek gets a chance of a shot at a world title, then he's got to take it. But I'd like to see the Parker fight. David Price came in at short notice, and I think tactics were right from Team Chisora. They smothered him, they got on top of him, they didn't let him get going, and they bulldozed him out of there, and they did everything right. And yeah, it was disappointing for David, but you know, if he'd been allowed to get his jab going and that dangerous right hand, then, you know, it could have been a different story. And I think Derek knew that. So they got their tactics spot on. And, yeah, he gets a good win. I thought Conor Benn looked really good last Saturday as well. Lawrence Okoli winning the European title, always going to be difficult, you know, to fight Lawrence Okoli, and you know, sometimes it's a struggle for him because of the way that styles clash. But I thought he did well to get the stoppage, and he's going to prove very tough to beat. You know, he could easily go on to become a world champion, Lawrence, and then you had Ricky Burns and Lee Selby, which I didn't think gelled very well. I thought it was a tough, hard fight and a close fight. But, you know, Ricky owes us nothing, just like Anthony Crolla. He's been an amazing story. Probably Ricky and Anthony Crolla have been the two most successful stories if you look at the fact that where they've come from. You know, when Yusuf Al-Hamidi was beating Anthony Crolla, when Derry Matthews was stopping for the British title. And, you know, Eddie talked about the robbery and where he's come from, and the draw, that robbery as well. And it's been an unbelievable story for Ricky Burns as well. 3-weight world champion, Scotland's first ever and maybe only ever world champion, 3-time world champion they'll ever have. And, you know, he's still talking about his sports store in Coatbridge, and the two of them have been utterly consummate professionals. I've got nothing but fond memories and respect for. And, you know, Ricky will decide what he wants to do, but Anthony's, I think, going out at the right time. And look, he's as meticulous as ever. He wants the win. On Saturday night, he saw his hero, Ricky Hatton, not go out in the way he wanted to, and I don't think he wants that to happen in front of his Manchester fans. So, you know, boxing, as we know, often doesn't end in happy stories. You know, there are defeats. There is then the hunger to come back. You know, Tony Bellew lost and went. George Groves lost and went. It doesn't always happen in the way you want it to. Joe Calzaghe got out at the right time, Carl Froch did, and I think Anthony Crolla should win on Saturday night, and it will be good to go in that way.
I mean, just touching on his career, it's been quite unbelievable. He's fought the very best. Jorge Linares, Vasily Lomachenko. He must be sort of someone that other boxers should look out to be like.
Absolutely, and as Joe Gallagher rightly said, not just those guys, not just the big names, but he had to get through the likes of, you know, your Kieran Farrells and what happened to Kieran as well. You know, these difficulties through his career, he's had to come back from, you know, the Derry Matthews defeat. He had the fights with him, with Gavin Rees. Those sort of fights, you know, they're not easy. They're all tough fights, you know, all former sort of world champions or very, very good amateurs, you know. Anthony Crolla's never had it easy, but he's never complained. He's always fought who's in front of him. He's been wonderful with the media, with us, all the way through. And, you know, he came and worked the Lomachenko Campbell week with us, and we'd love to have him again. You know, he's a boxer, a trainer, a pundit. He's a man of boxing that should be listened to, should be respected. He looks great. He's had a great career. He's had the highs and lows. You know, he can do a lot of things after he hangs the gloves up on Saturday night. And, you know, look, we pick up the commentary. There's no biasness. Frank gets the win, Anthony gets the win. We call it as we see it, but there'll be tears whatever happens, because it's been a wonderful journey for Anthony Crolla, and he's still got a fight to finish on, and for him to hopefully win.
And the main event, KSI-Taylor stepping up a weight class to face Christina Leonardito. How difficult is this fight for Katie? Is this perhaps her most difficult one of her career?
Very much so. I mean, she loves the challenge, KSI-Taylor. You know, we've been following her through the amateurs, the greatest, maybe Irish, certainly amateur ever, maybe greatest Irish sports person of all time. I mean, she is adored by everyone in the Emerald Isle, and obviously she's got a huge fan base on the eastern seaboard of America. I spent some time with her and Brian Peters over the summer, and I was adamant that I wanted her to come back and fight at 10 o'clock at night, you know, and I think that was really important. You know, she's been fighting at 3-4 in the morning, and it's fantastic to have her topping a Sky Sports home show for the Irish and the Manchester and the British fans and everybody to see her at the right sort of time. She's a wonderful fighter and a wonderful ambassador for the sport. I thought, you know, it was nip and tuck with Delphine Persoon in the Garden. A lot of people thought she lost. She got the Irish eyes were smiling that night. She got the decision. She unified the lightweight titles. On to the next for Katie. We'd obviously love to see the Persoon rematch at some point. This is tough. You know, she goes up in weight. She goes to try and become a 2-weight champion, and Christina is a very solid fighter and very strong and very powerful at the weight, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be really hard for Katie. She's had her longest camp ever. I got to see her in the summer, and She's in great shape, as she always will be, but this is tough, and it's not going to get any easier. She wants to fight the likes of Amanda Serrano. She wants to fight Delphine Besson in a rematch. She wants to fight Cecilia Braekhus. She's desperate to become the greatest woman fighter of all time, at a time where women's boxing is flying. Terry Harper on the bill, great to see. She's so improved, and very excited that she's joined Matchroom. I've got my old scholar from Sky, Savannah Marshall, who's going great guns. She's going to be a world middleweight champion. Watch this space on her. It's great. It's great for women's boxing, and Katie is flying the flag. And my kids are going to come up and see this, because they look up to Katie as an absolute role model. And to have that effect is great. She's getting the young involved. She's getting the women's scene flying, and it's terrific to have her on Sky.
I mean, you mentioned Cecilia Braekhus. She obviously signed with Matchroom just, I believe, last week. How excited are you to have her on Sky Sports in Monaco?
When Eddie called me and he said, "I'm taking a plunge. I'm going to sign Katie-Taylor," the smile on my face in the Sky office was huge. I went to see Barney Francis, who was the head of Sky Sports at the time, and I said, "Look, I think this is a whole new era," and it's proved that way. And he's backed it up. Eddie, him and Brian Peters have got Katie the fight she wanted, and look at what's happening with women's boxing. You've got the likes of Chantel Cameron, you've got Shannon Courtney coming through, you've got so many. As I said, Terry on this bill, and Savannah is going to probably fight for a world title in 2020, early 2020, and it's brilliant. And I think that Cecilia Braekhus joining Matchroom is just more evidence that women's boxing is phenomenal, and we are massively behind it at Sky. Women's sports really important for us. The cricket, the netball, you name it. And we've got in Katie-Taylor, we believe, the very, very finest, not just in the ring, but out of the ring as well.
Saturday night, massive card here, massive card in Las Vegas. Canelo versus Sergey Kovalev, also on the card, interestingly, Evander Holyfield's son. I mean, this card really has everything. Talking about the main event, a lot of people kind of undecided, it seems, on fight week now. Sort of, started off Canelo as favourite, Sergey Kovalev's coming back into it. How do you see this fight playing out?
Well, so many people said to me, "Why didn't you pick the Batebiev fight up? Are you going to pick Canelo up?" I'm saying, hang on a minute. We've got a huge bill, a huge lineup on Matchroom. We've got Errol Spence and Sean Porter, which we bought out of our contract. We've also bought Deontay Wilder, 2 or 3 times. We then signed the Wilder-Ortiz rematch, which we're bringing from Vegas. And still people say that's not enough. What are you going to do about Canelo? So we got together and we worked out that we could get Canelo and Kovalev. We're delighted with it. It makes it another huge weekend on Sky Sports. Not only are we in the middle of a big Sky box office sort of season, including one, ironically, tonight, which is not a boxing office event. It's another type of event, but it does feature one of the great fighters in the world in Tyson Fury. So let's give that a little plug. It's a marketing tool. Obviously, it's Tyson trying to sort of extend his audience, but it's great to have him on Sky Sports box office. Maybe not as we'd like him, but it's fantastic that. And but I am very wary of the fact that we've had the Lomachenko fight, we had the Josh Taylor fight. We've got a different sort of Sky Sports box office event next week in LA. We're very honest about that. We know that Devin Haney, Billy Joe are on the card, but it is about KSI and Logan Paul. It is about a new audience and reaching new people in a new sort of demographic in the sport. And we obviously got the Ruiz AJ big one at the end of the year. So I wanted to make sure that the Sky Sports platform was huge in this period as well. And I think we've seen with Newcastle, we've seen with this show on Saturday night, we've seen getting the double header with Canelo, Callum Smith in Liverpool against John Ryder, with Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz in Vegas. Then we go to Monaco, then we go to Saudi Arabia, and after that we've got a ton of shows on Sky Sports before Christmas. So I've been here a long time at Sky, and I think that it's probably the most powerful schedule we've ever put together at the back end of a year on Sky Sports and on Sky Sports box office. So I'm delighted to bring Canelo. I think it's a tough fight for Canelo if Kovalev has still got enough left. We saw him against Anthony Yarde, proving that he did. He could drag it out. I thought Yarde did terrifically well that night. My gut feeling is that Canelo will be a little bit too good for him, but it's a big question mark with the weight. Just like Katie's going up, you never know when you move up in weight, and Canelo's going up a long way. So it's going to be a great fight. Evander Holyfield, I mean, you're taking me right back now when I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with Evander in Houston, and ahead of those Tyson fights, and the great warrior he was. To think one of his 11, 12 children, I can't remember how many he's got, is going to be on the bill. And Chris Eubank Jr. will be with us next week at the back end, and that brings me back to. We've been in this sport a long time, but it's great to see the new guys coming through. Conor Benn doing so well last Saturday. The sons of the great fighters. So yeah, but the whole night in Vegas will be great on Sky, and we look forward to Manchester kicking it all off first.
You mentioned him, Tyson Fury, obviously tonight in WWE on Sky Sports box office. Just touching on that, does that have any impact on any future fights with Sky, or is this just a one-off?
No. It's we've got a deal to show the WWE. It's not boxing. So no, it's each boxing event is very different. Tyson Fury's been on BT with Frank Warren, and we've watched and we've admired him and how he's come back. And I saw him in Monaco a couple of years ago, and he was totally out of shape, and he was saying, I'm going to lose 6 stone and come back, and Eddie was talking to him, and Frank's gone and done a great job with him. They brought him back. I thought he beat Deontay. I thought he was phenomenal that night, dragging himself off the canvas. He's had a couple of wins since then. Yeah, they've got to watch the eye. They've got to remember that the boxing part is the serious part. But listen, it's entertainment. It's a business, and Tyson Fury's very, very good at it. But where he's come back from has been phenomenal, and I wish him well out in Saudi tonight.
Finally on Tyson, he made some comments last week saying that he's got 3 fights left. Let's presume one of them's the Wilder rematch. He's talking about a trilogy. Are you concerned this potential fight with Joshua, the one everyone wants, an all-British clash, may not happen?
Listen, we're all fight fans. We all want the big fights, don't we? We had to wait a long time for Mayweather-Pacquiao. Too long, in my eyes. We should have had 3 by the time they made that. It happened in the end. I mean, big fights tend to happen if both parties want it. I think AJ and Tyson Fury will both want to fight each other. So, let's see what happens. There's a lot to get through first. Deontay against Ortiz in a great rematch. Then you've got Ruiz and AJ. Will AJ right the wrong? Will Ruiz do it again? And if Ruiz does it again, could he fight Wilder? And then could AJ fight Fury at Wembley? There's a lot of things that have got to happen first. Fights that didn't make it, Lewis Bowe, particular disappointment for me after their amateur history. Ricky Hatton and Junior Witter never got made. Amir Khan and Kell Brook has never been made, and I've tried very hard over the years to try and get those 2 in a ring. We've got one more chance of that, I think. Anthony Joshua's got to concentrate on December the 7th. That's all he's got to focus on. Tyson Fury's got to make sure he comes out of WWE unscathed, see what they've got for him, whether they want to go again with that or whether he goes into a Wilder rematch in February. Of course, Deontay's got to beat Luis Ortiz. So we all know June the 1st showed best laid plans and all that. Let's take one step at a time. But I think what we have got is a thunderous end to 2019, a wonderful 2020 ahead. And as all, we all still continue to think of Patrick Day and his family and the loved ones that he leaves behind in what is a very risky and dangerous sport. And as Anthony Crolla says, he's done everything possible to train meticulously hard and switch off from the emotion, because what's important is that victory on Saturday night, or if he doesn't get the victory, to come out happy and healthy back to his family and to retire and look back on his career with wonderful memories. So it's a business that's all we want, them to come out healthy and happy and safely back to their families. And our hearts are still thinking of Patrick and Lou DiBella and everyone associated with it.
Just finally, KSI-Logan Paul next Saturday. You'll be out in LA. How have you found working with both of them this time around? I know it's something completely new to you. They're doing incredible numbers so far. What has it been like working with those 2? Have they surprised you in any way?
That's a really good question. I bring my kids back into it because they're the ones that have been telling me about KSI and Logan Paul for quite a long time while we've been locked away in our boxing world. It's a changing world, isn't it? And we've got to be ready for that. I know there's a lot of hardcore out there, the trade, who don't like this topping a bill, but ultimately it's entertainment. It's what people want, and there's a huge demand for it. I found them very intelligent, very interesting, brilliant personalities, charisma in front of camera. I mean, it's often when we see fighters, we see their talent, and we hope that they're good communicators as well, and they're the whole package, because you need to have that appeal to sell tickets and to obviously to draw audiences in. These two, it's the sort of other way around. I mean, they can sell anything and they can talk the talk, but they've actually got a fight now. Listen, they've had a fight before. It was very novice-y. I expect it to be novice-y again. I mean, it's, you know, the head guards are off, the gloves are smaller, so there's a lot more at stake with this one, and there's a lot more at stake, you know, in the YouTube world the day after. You know, if one of them gets knocked out, then they're going to have to deal with that with a huge audience. But look, they've trained hard for this fight. I've been over to see Logan Paul in California. He's been with Shannon Briggs. He's been training extraordinarily hard for this. He has got a wrestling background. He is probably the more physical of the two. KSI or JJ admitted to me that, you know, he wasn't the best athlete at school. He hardly got into the football team, etc. So he's had to sort of drag it out, but he's absolutely fallen in love with it. And he's, you know, he's been trained by a great team, and he's hung out with the Mayweather lot, and they'll both be in great shape by next Saturday night. They are already. So listen, it's a different sort of entertainment, but they're still two fighters getting into a ring, and they're just topping a bill because of the appeal to it. And we look forward to the sort of the more traditional boxing side, seeing the likes of Devon Haney and the others on the card, and then we'll get to the YouTubers, and I'm sure there'll be some sort of electricity when that happens at the Staples Centre. I think it's going to be a bit of a circus next week, but I can't wait. And my 8-year-old is the one that really wants to be there doing her own YouTube channel. I think she's got her education to think of, and we've got to get her to school, but she'd rather be on the plane to LA and taking my place, I think, next week.
Adam, I appreciate your time for Pro Boxing Fans, and we'll catch up with you soon.